feel like we just talked about this stuff, right? I feel like we just had a conversation talking about how Microsoft has changed the entire industry and bought out Activision and all of its properties and yada, yada, yada. And I was saying something at some point in that conversation that Sony's not just going to sit around and let this shit fly, right? They're not just going to sit around and do the exact same thing that they do in the exact same ways and buy up their small little companies and stuff like that. No, eventually they're going to cave in and buy something relatively big, right? Which is funny because they now have bought not like a billion things. Activision is such a huge acquisition because it encompasses so much, right? The scale of that is absolutely intense by comparison. But Sony officially today coming out and being like, hey, we are buying Bungie. To me sounds like a little like, ooh, really? Ooh, really? Just straight coming out and buying Bungie and officially owning Destiny at that point. Because Destiny's a big game. For people that aren't me, right? And maybe some of you guys obviously are huge Destiny fans, but Destiny is now going to be a PlayStation franchise, most likely going forward sometime in the future, even though they're saying the exact same thing, right? I'm pretty sure Sony is already saying the same thing, that they want to keep their game on a multitude of consoles, right? They want to keep the Destiny brand on as many things as possible. But here's the thing, man. When push comes to shove, right? Eventually, when those contractual obligations for third-party software are that need to exist on all these things, once that goes away, the exact same thing is going to happen that Microsoft has been touting for the past few months. Granted, Sony doesn't want Microsoft making a ton of money on their own games on their own platform for too long. In the same way that Sony would feel the same way about their own games showing up in other ways on other platforms, right? We don't want you taking cuts of our money, bitch. That's just not the way it goes. So for now, right? For now, things are going to be the way they are, right? Destiny is going to remain on a lot of stuff, and Bungie now being officially a part of the Sony family, granted, seems like a direct stab in the back because Bungie is like the original Microsoft dev, right? Like of all the Microsoft studios, all those developers that began the Xbox brand, Bungie is literally the one. Like, even though they've obviously segmented off and done their own thing and have moved, like, they made Destiny, right? They've done their own thing for like the past 10 years. But still, Sony's scooping them up and being like, hey, you know what? You're now a Sony thing. Ooh, that seems a little funny. It seems like that might have been an opportunity for Microsoft way back in the day to scoop up Bungie instead of making them go third party, but Bungie was probably not interested in staying with Microsoft anymore. They probably wanted to do different things. Anyway, long story short, that's interesting. And the second part of the story is the fact that, so I don't think they're done, right? Second part of the story, yeah, oh geez, I was just saying this. Wait. There's a link to it? So this is literally what I was about to say. I don't think Sony's done. I think this is part one to an ongoing story, and bam, there you go. And wow, I didn't even need to get very far before what Jim Ryan directly said we should expect more when it comes to further PlayStation acquisitions, and more stuff is coming. Well, there you go. Well, there you go. Once again, chat, it wasn't the fact, it was not directly the fact that Microsoft had bought Blizzard / Activision. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that that was such a disrupting industry thing, right? One of the biggest third-party developers in the history, if not the biggest one, next to like EA, suddenly becoming not third-party anymore and becoming part of Microsoft. That is such a gigantic industry disrupting thing that's like, uh-oh, oh shit. What else are they? Oh shit. That's going to be immediately something that is going to get into the heads of any competitor and being like, all right, so we can't let them get this, right? If that's going to happen, then it means that they could do this. We can't let them have that. And they have to start. This is not like this year. This is not next year. This is like the long haul, right? We're talking the next half decade to full decade. That's where the perspective of how long this is going to take effect will be going, until we actually really see how impactful this shit is. So just hearing the fact that Sony has picked up Bungie, which seems like a weird buy to me. It doesn't seem I would assume somebody else might have gotten scooped up, but they actually went for a non-Japanese company. I was feeling it in my bones that they were going to possibly scoop up Capcom or Sega, or probably not Sega. I was definitely thinking Capcom, or maybe go as far as Square Enix, because Sony and Square already have a very long-going relationship, but Square might not. Square's a much different situation. Why Square Enix might not happen is that they are so much more than just the games they make, right? You have Capcom, which is one thing, and they have a big licensing thing, right? But they are still mostly responsible for the games they make. That's where they still make the majority of their money. However, with Square Enix, they have this giant subsidiary of all these other things like music industry stuff and all this. They have such a gigantic impact on so many other things that are outside of video games and movies and production and like a ridiculous amount of shit, right? That might be a bit too much than what they're looking for. But I really wouldn't be surprised if at some point Sony was starting to eyeball some of the other devs that have had pretty profound impacts. I don't think they're going to go buy Bamkai. I don't think they're going to go buy Bandai Namco. I don't. They're quite literally too big. Their estimated worth is about 16 billion, and Bandai Namco is essentially the biggest third-party. I think technically the biggest third-party Japanese developer there is. They're huge, man. Like, the amount of stuff Bandai Namco puts out every year would blow your fucking mind if you were actually paying attention to it. Even though all of it might not be the most giant impactful of things, they are an absolute crazy powerhouse. More than probably anything next to Square in Japan, maybe like Nintendo because they're first party, right? In terms of third party, they're absolutely huge. But at the same time, I don't know. Is it maybe another American dev acquisition? I'd have to think of who's left, right? Maybe WB? Sony buying WB would be pretty nuts, but that would arguably be worth way more. You know, I don't even know if WB would be up for sale. Ubisoft being an opportunity, EA? I don't think Sony would buy EA. I don't think that's potentially a possibility. I think EA is a bit too big. But here's the crazy one. This has been like rumored for years, man. There has been, if you want an industry like, hey, Microsoft, you bought fucking Activision and decided to take the industry in a bold new direction that we don't know where it's going now or what's going on. Sony comes out and brings out a knife, and they're like, bitch, Grand Theft Auto. Like, that point. I think that if you have the biggest turnback of this whole situation, Sony buy something like Rockstar or like Take-Two or some shit, that's a big fucking acquisition. But getting exclusivity of like Grand Theft Auto, because this has been rumored for years, right? It's been talked about for so goddamn long that GTA might be like a PlayStation thing. It's been like, long story short, it's been rumored for a very, very, very long time, with nothing ever eventually coming to fruition. All I'm saying is that if there was like a response to industry defining, like, goddamn, well, you did that, well, we're gonna do this now. Like, holy fuck, dude. Although I might argue that they're worth even more than Activision. So I don't know how possible that is, right? I really don't know. In the vein of which a future GTA game comes out, right? In the vein of which there actually is like a future for that series and they don't just keep remaking GTA 5 over and over and over again, they are so big, it's insane. Like, they're absolutely huge. So they're worth about 18 billion. Well, there you go. That's not nearly as much as what MS had to put up. And that, even if they had to spend like close to 1/4 of what Microsoft had to spend on Activision and Blizzard, that would be a big disruptor if Sony came out and did something like that. So yeah, to follow up with what's being said in this tweet, that the literal executives at Sony are like, hey, we're not done, right? If this was a big impact for you guys right now, we are not done. This is quite literally in direct response that Microsoft has been swimming in these waters that Sony is aware of. These deals and the chance of these deals happening don't just stay quiet in some regards. This stuff eventually gets out and around to like executives and stuff, and they find out about it. And the reason is These third-party companies want that to happen, right? You got to understand from the perspective of all these other devs that are out there, these devs that have all these properties and franchises that might eventually become first party, they want that shit to happen because it means they're competing. They're actually like, the company espionage works because they're bidding against each other, potentially in like round robin sort of situations, and they drive up the price of what's valuable. That could have possibly even happened for the Activision deal, where potentially, you know, Sony might have shown interest in some way, and then Microsoft showed up with big boy, you know, Windows money, and all of a sudden, oh, wow, they can actually afford it. Long story short, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't think you just pay the minimum $18 billion for Take-Two and all their franchises and Grand Theft Auto. I don't know if that happens. I think if that happens, they're definitely going to be worth way more. Because at that point, if they're going for like 18 billion, dude, Microsoft's going to be like, we'll take that. Shit, we'll give you like 5 more billion for all of Grand Theft Auto. Fuck. Like, I don't know how much Sony has to work with in this situation, but Microsoft has big fucking bucks, and apparently Game Pass is making this all possible. So, yeah. Everybody keeps saying Nintendo. Nintendo's not gonna happen. Nintendo's literally not for sale. They're too proud, man. They don't care. They've literally... There's been moments in the past, we talked about this, where Nintendo has been approached from Microsoft, and in that situation, Nintendo said, no, sorry. Like, they literally declined the money. They don't give a shit. They're too proud. They are too, like, they are too business focused on their legacy and stuff like that to be really, to want to do it. And I think the way their dividends and the way their shares and the way the company is, like, worth its value is split up in a way that's bizarre, that makes them hard to buy or something like that. So that doesn't apply to Sega. However, I don't think that applies to Sega. I think Sega will 100% sell out if they need to. If they want to get those franchises on other systems and stuff like that, I think there's an opportunity for that to happen. Is Capcom a possibility? At this point, I don't see why not, dude. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. Sony buying up Capcom makes a lot of sense. How much for Capcom? Not nearly as much as the others. I think Capcom's closer to like 5 or 6 billion, right? Maybe even 4. They're not that much. But I think Capcom might be worth significantly more because of Monster Hunter now, right? You have to understand that. Monster Hunter changed the value of that company over the past few years.